Everybody, another video here for you today, and this is by request. I've had a few different requests for this over different periods of time, but we're going to go down to Florida today. This story comes from Vero Beach, and I can also include a couple other stories that have come out recently. It was right down here in 1915, 1916 that a set of fossilized human remains were discovered in the town of Vero, now called Vero Beach, and they were found in association with some extinct megafauna. So the original thinking was that Vero Man was at least 12,500 years old. Just doing a little more reading on this, it appears that the discovery was made along this canal just south of the Vero Beach Regional Airport, somewhere in here. Here is one link I will leave below, Old Vero Ice Age Site History. This is a brief history review of Vero Man, or possibly Vero Woman, so they're not quite positive if this is a man or a woman. But here is a cast done of the skull found here in over 100 years ago. Talks about how humans made their way into Florida and how early. There is the Page Ladson site that is about 14,000 years old that is found up in the Panhandle. But it says, in 1913, the Indian River Farms Company was dredging the main relief canal in Vero, Florida, in preparation to handle an expanding population. The workers on this project kept seeing fossilized bones in the walls or banks of the freshly dredged canal. Some of the bones were presented to the state geologist, Dr. E.H. Sellards. Dr. Sellards suggested that they also look for human bones during a visit to the site. And there on the right are some pictures from 105 years ago of the site, the way it looked back then. Some old black and white photos there. It says in 1916, Dr. Sellards, working with a few others, found more human bones in the strata known as the Melbourne strata. The testing that was done later suggests that some of the bones were male and some were female. It was at this time that the finds were published and the controversy begins. You're always going to have some pushback from pre-Clovis dates, that is for sure. We've learned that by now. It says Dr. Sellards believed the humans lived side by side with the extinct late Ice Age mammals, which puts them living in Vero, Florida, over 14,000 years ago. This defied the conventional wisdom of the day, which stated humans were in North America no further back than 6,000 years ago. Now, one gentleman who pushed back against Dr. Sellards' early finds here was a guy by the name of Herdlicka. Here is a pic of him. Who did he work for? He was the Smithsonian curator from 1910 to 1940. And he tried to kind of poo-poo these finds. There on the right are some of the bones found. It says at the main relief canal in Vero. There have been some pretty interesting finds made in Vero in the recent years. Here is one. And they're not sure if this is a giant sloth bone or a mammoth bone. But here is a carving that pretty clearly depicts a elephant-type species of some sort. Here is a link to that story, first ancient mammoth image discovered in the Americas. And I will leave the link to this story below. It comes from about 10 years ago. Now here's a story that I found from 3 years ago. It says, Old Vero Man, not as old as originally thought after archaeologists analyzed artifacts. And here is a look where these discoveries were made. But it says, Old Vero Man site tells 13,000-year-old story. There was bison bones here that date back to right before the younger Dryas started at the end of the Ice Age. But they date the Vero Man now to about around 7,000 years old, based on carbon dating of a projectile point that they associate with the Vero Man that they say is 7,000 years old. So I have a little bit of questions on that dating. But that is the most current thing I could find about this research. Now, I wondered why they couldn't do the radiocarbon testing on the bones, but I think the Wikipedia page here answers that. It says the human bones excavated by Sellards were passed around by various institutions for study. By the time carbon-14 dating of fossils became possible, about 35 years after the discovery of Vero Man, some of the bones have been lost, others have been rendered unusable for such testing due to the way they have been preserved with chemicals, so that answers that question. Some of these bones found over 100 years ago in Vero, now Vero Beach, Florida, have been lost to time. They just kind of disappeared. So no current carbon dating can be done on them. That's unfortunate. Could some of these bones that were found here, and there was a bunch of them, could some of them date back to the Ice Age? Well, I guess that's possible, but it seems humans were here the same time Megafauna, based on this bone carving of a mastodon or a mammoth. Now here's a semi-related story from just a few months ago. It says divers discover massive thigh bone from Ice Age mammoth in Florida River, and this is in the Peace River. I believe this is Arcadia, Florida, not Vero Beach. Maybe, I don't know, what, about 100 and some miles to the west. But a guy named Derek and Henry here, very excited, shown with their discovery. It says the two friends dive regularly in southwest Florida, and they have previously found mammoth teeth in the river. The same day they found the leg bone, they also found several small fossils from extinct sharks and the tooth of a saber-toothed cat, they told the local news station. Now here are some tusks found at the Vero site with some strange markings on them. Further proof that Dr. Sellers says that humans and megafauna were living at the same time here at the same site. That is a video on Vero Man, named after the town, present-day Vero Beach. This is the way the discovery site looked back then. I think this is an interesting story. But no radiocarbon dating was done on the bones itself. And what answers could we learn from those? But the dating of Vero Man, at least the new dating in that newest article, was done on an assumption based on how old an arrowhead was. While making this video, I read a couple websites, and I think the discovery site is right down here, right by the airport, right in this area right here. But if you know anything different, please leave it in the comments section. But that is an interesting site right there. Megafauna in more than one species found there. Human bones, no radiocarbon dating was done on them, so that just brings up a few questions. The current dating of Vero Man was done on an assumption, but that is some more ancient America for you, coming from Florida. Hope you thought that was cool, and you all have a very nice day.